G'day, welcome back to another episode of TOGL. Well, as I've mentioned on the last two videos, I've been doing a little bit of fencing on and off over the last few weeks. So I thought I'd just show you a little bit about how I'm doing that fencing and some of the things that I've learnt since doing this. So you'll see right behind me here how we've got the two posts, the two verticals, we've got the horizontal. You may be able to make out that there's a diagonal wire there as well. So I need to do the same thing over on this one. So I'll show you how I do it, which direction I put those wires and why. So I've got this log here that I've cut, which is going to be our horizontal, and I will run it at the same height as this other one. Now because the ground slopes, I actually want this to be perfectly level horizontal. So obviously it'll be a bit higher on that post than it will on this post, but that shouldn't matter. Now what I do is we actually put a piece of Rio as the pin. So I need to drill a hole here. I need to drill a hole over here. Now this one is going to go right through. This one here, I'll only go in a little bit. And then on the end of the logs, I'll drill a small piece as well. Now the reason that is because this end will pin onto there, but I don't need anything hanging out the back. Over here though, I want that piece of Rio to come right through and hang out just a little bit out the other side. And the reason for that is because that's what the wire will hook on. You'll notice here that this piece of wire, it goes up, goes down to the bottom. Now down the bottom, it's held down the bottom with those U-nails that you nail in. But up the top, which is where most of the pressure will be, it'll actually be pulling down on that piece of Rio. Now the reason that we have it hanging out of one side and not the other is because we want the high part of the wire to be pointing in the direction of where the fence is going to. And the reason is, I'll just check if you can see over here. Yeah, you can. So when we pull on the fence in that direction, these poles are going to want to lean in that direction. By having the wire up high here and down low at the bottom, as we tighten it, it pulls this post back in this direction. So the fence is pulling that way, but our stay wire is pulling this way. And that's the whole idea. That's how you offset them. And that's why we do this H setup, to pull them nice and tight. Because if you just had a single post, it would want to pull in when you tighten up the fence. It's going to want to pull over unless you sunk it like 10 meters into the ground or something ridiculous. So we've only sunk them in the ground yay deep. They don't really need to be much deeper than that because they hold each other up. So that's what I've got to do here. The fence is obviously going in that direction. This will be the high point. That's where the Rio goes all the way through. It'll go down to the bottom. So I will get the drills and get started on that. Okay, so I've got the holes drilled. I've put a piece of Rio into this end so I can slot it into there. I've got the Rio ready at this end, and I'll just hang the hammer there, which doesn't want to hang. I'll put it there so that I can drive that pin and hold the other end in, because this will be heavy to hold up. close that gap, what I'll do, I'll just put a ratchet strap around here, tighten it up, it'll finish pulling that in. Then I can get to getting this stay wire up. There we go, she's all the way in. Okay, so now I need to run the wire. So I've got these little U-nails and I need to put a couple of them over on this back corner here. I hate those U-nails, they're so hard to put in. Okay, so I've wrapped that twice, and then all I've got to do is join these ends up, and then pull it tight. Now I use something called a gripple for that. Let me show you what a gripple is. So this is called a gripple. It's a little lead, like a lead seal almost, and what it does, kind of acts a bit like a ratchet really. So we just grab this wire and we put it through one of the sides, and then we grab the other end and we put it through the other side like that. Now we use a tool called the gripple tool, and it's designed to actually go onto one of these wires like that, and then we're going to slide that down onto the gripple. Now as I open it, as I squeeze it, it will pull the wire through. When I open it up, this piece will push on this piece and open it so that I can slide it back down the wire. And then when I close again, it clamps up on the wire and pulls more wire out. Now it's a little bit slack at the moment because I haven't got enough tension on it, but you get the idea. So let me get this set up and then we'll tighten this up. Now you can tighten this from both sides too, because now I'm getting quite a long bit out there. I've still got a shorter bit here, so I can flip it around and tighten from this side as well. Now it is important not to over tighten this at the moment, because if you tighten it too far one way, you can pull the logs that far over that the fence, that far over that way that the fence won't pull it back. So you just want to get some tension onto it. It's still a little bit slack. Just get some tension onto it, then get your fence pulled, because your fence will probably pull the logs that away a bit. Then you can tighten this up, which will pull the logs back that way, and you get them back up straight. Right, that'll do for now. I'll get this fencing pulled out tight, nailed in, and then I can finish tightening this up. Alright, so the next task is I need to get this wire pulled nice and tight. Now, there are some special tools that you can buy for that, but I've just kind of cheated, knocked up my own 2 bits of wood, several screws, and what I do with this is just so what I do is basically take these 2 bits of wood, put them either side like that, and then I just screw them together. Now I can actually pull evenly on that. If you try to just put a hook on, you just bend the wire, so this will pull it nice and straight. Now all I need to do, I can either use a car with a winch, put around that. If I've got something to tie off onto, I can tie off like a ratchet strap or some sort of hand winch. What I'm going to do is I've got a big steel fire pit that should be heavy enough to put enough tension on this. I'm just going to connect the ratchet strap to that, ratchet strap to this, use the ratchet strap to pull it tight enough, then put the nails in. If I didn't have that there, I could always drive the tractor through. So there's a lot of options. You just need something that's going to be heavier and have more support, more drag than the pressure you want to put on that fence to straighten that fence up. So I'll grab the ratchet strap, I'll get that on. I'll just loop this around the middle. Like that. Pull this back to where I'm going to pull from. So that's where I've tied off onto this big steel fire pit with ratchet straps across and then to the fence there. So now we'll see, I should be able to pull this up nice and tight. So let's see how we go. As you're tightening it, it's important to go and check the fence, make sure everything is sitting right. The last thing you want to do is have it sitting crooked, pull it tight, bend it out, or not be able to get it to sit the right way. So tighten it a bit, do a check, tighten it a bit more, do a check, make sure it comes in nicely. So now you can see that's pulled nice and tight. So now what I'll do is nail it in, and then I can release this and that piece of fence is done. So now with that secured, if you're going around the corner, or even if I'm going to end this fence right here, you could actually, if you had something else to tie onto out there, you could pull this around and pull that way to really get that tied on. I've secured these well enough here that it's not going to go back that way, so I'm quite confident that I can actually cut these off now, wrap it around and tie it off. So I can simply start undoing these. by angling the nail this direction, making sure that the tips of the nail are back here somewhere. As I drive it in, it's pulling the wire tighter around that post. So just pop that in like that. Start it off a little bit more. Alright, we're in there nice today. Now what I'll do is cut this off back around about here, and then I'll bind it over onto the other piece of fence as well. I can start to take these straps off now that everything's in place too. And then you just continue to work your way down one line at a time until you've got all of the ends tied off. And that's your fence finished for the mesh part anyway. Then I just run a single line of barbed wire and a single line of electric fence above the top of that. That's your fence done. But you don't really need to do that. What you've done now could be fine. Right, well, back on the mill again today. Need to mill up some more 2x4s and planks. Cody's building a new duck and chicken coop, so I'm helping him out with getting the timber ready for that. But I did say last week I would show you a couple of the modifications that have been made recently to the timber mill. So let's go have a look. So what I've done is, there's a couple of things. Firstly, these wheels. So these used to just be a block. It was like 2 blocks that the blade would run between. Now we've actually got a guide wheel. And those guide wheels put a downward pressure on the blade. And because of the width, they hold the blade nice and flat and dead straight. Whereas with the guide blocks, it enabled it to twist a little bit as the blade got blunt. So these are working really, really well. You can see that the wheels actually turn. Now it does make a little bit more noise, more of a high-pitched squeal. Once you get used to that, it's not a big deal. Now the other modification I made is putting that bar on. It's taken me a couple of goes to work out the exact positioning, as you can tell by these other holes, but I think I've got it in just the right spot. So what happens is, if I lower it enough that that bar hits that, which it won't right now, it'll stop before the blade hits it. So see how the blade's got a couple of mil extra? So if I lower this blade any lower where the blade might hit, this bar's going to hit first. Now what that does is it saves me running into those steel uprights, because when you are operating the machine, you actually lose sight on that side, and let me show you why. So this is where the machine gets operated from, right here. Okay, so there's the handle to accelerate. So you're standing over here and you're looking across at that angle. Now, yeah, I can see that, that's fine, but if I've got a big piece of timber, like a log, I actually lose sight of that because the log is sitting in like this and I can't see. So what happens is, as I'm pushing along, has happened a few times, is if there's one of those uprights and I can't see it, I will actually hit it. And I have done that a few times, as you can tell by that one. And by that one as well. So, yeah. Now, it's bad when you hit them because it tends to rip off half the teeth, make it very blunt, and pretty much makes the blade unusable, and then I'm up for a new blade. so it gets costly. So by putting that tiny little modification on, hopefully it will stop me hitting those uprights when I can't see them. I should be checking. Sometimes you get into the rhythm and you just slice, come back, lower it down a couple of centimeters, whatever you're cutting, slice again, and you just forget to look that where is that upright, how high is it, and then bang, you've hit it, you've ripped off half the teeth. So the mill is now cutting beautifully. I'm really happy with how this is cutting now. I'm really coming into my own with this. It's taken me 4 years, but I'm going to get a log up. We're going to start cutting some 2x4s. And the last little mod on this was something that Cody came up with. Now when you're rolling backwards and forwards, there's actually like a piece of wire that will keep the groove in the wheel clean, but it doesn't stop the sawdust building up on the track. So let's have a look at this. So these are the bits of wire, like wire rope, and then they go into the groove and they help keep that clean. But what about the track? So Cody came up with the idea of, let's get some little wire brushes. They're like little wire toothbrushes. And we'll just put that on there. So he's put one on that side and he's put one on this side, and they are working fantastically. So when you push, it's continually cleaning the track off. So that's yet another thing that's just keeping it even better and a nice smooth finish to our timber. Now these trees have a very thin bark, very thin soft bark, and it's not stringy, so it doesn't tend to clog up the blade. All I'll do is give it a very quick sweep down and make sure there's no dirt on it, because dirt will make the blade blunt, and then I'll be able to mill that straight up without having to remove the bark on it. Unlike the stringy bark, you have to get all of that off. Now the other thing too is that this end is a lot fatter than the other end, so I need to lift the other end up. So right here we're looking at 240 mil. Versus 200 mil. So the center of 240 is going to be 120, the center of 200 will be 100. So I need to lift that end by 20 mil to make sure that the centers are perfectly aligned. Then I can start to mill. Now the way I do that is with a car jack. Just put a car jack underneath, jack it up, brace it in, we're good to go. Well, unfortunately that's all we've got time for this week. As you can see behind me, everything looks very wet. We've just had 24 hours of very welcome rain. It had been getting quite dry, and I'm sure that the grass is looking green already. So that was really good. Put some water in the tank. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Let me know what you think of this one. Until next week, guys, you guys have a great weekend and a great week. Stay safe, and I'll chat with you next week. Cheers.